Hello everybody, welcome to my movie review of the movie Dog. 2022 movie, just came out, just watched it, just got back from watching it. Gonna do the typical thing. Plot synopsis best I can, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Give you my overall grade, and then I'll talk about the major themes. So as you can tell, the character list looks pretty interesting this week, or for this one. It's because looking back at it, besides Jackson Briggs, who's the main character, along with the dog, Lulu, I do not recognize any of these names, like just simply from the characters in the movie. Right, I always kind of struggle with seeing the faces, because they're not in the costumes they were, or their dress up that they were in the movie. But for this one, I literally like, who's Natalie, Callan, Noah, Tamara, I think is Gus's wife, Bella, I think I know her. But Nikki, no idea. Keith, no idea. Sonia, I think that's his wife. Zoe, no idea. Tara, no idea. Dr. Gray, no idea. Brad, no idea. So they did not do a great job of, again, just using the names of the characters. But it doesn't take it away from my overall grade. But you start off Jackson Briggs, you basically just get like, not even like cut scenes, but just like, they're not actually like movie scenes, they're just like pictures of like, you know, your war journal, your deployment status, stuff like that. And right off the bat, you learn that Jackson Briggs is a Army Ranger. I will say again, the cut screens went a little too fast for me to even like read, so kind of had to infer some stuff, or just wait till they said it later on in the movie. But he's an Army Ranger. He's definitely been shot a couple times. It's not even clear to me exactly what his injury is. And certainly, I think they're playing with some PTSD. He has a seizure throughout the movie. So it's not necessarily clear to me if he had neurological damage from being shot. I'm not sure if he was shot in the head. He was definitely shot in the shoulder and the arms. But you have an Army Ranger, certainly with some sort of neurological damage or some sort of just war injury. And they used an acronym I wasn't familiar with, like maybe CPI for the military, not Consumer Price Index, but like that might be the wrong one. But for whatever reason, he has been injured in a way that he has to leave the Army. And the first kind of scenes you see him, he's working at a deli, you know, getting treated disrespectfully by some of the customers for putting cucumbers instead of peppers on the sandwich. Goes to take the trash out back. You know, he's throwing the trash away, the trash rips open, he's got to throw it in the dumpster with his hands. But he's calling somebody in the military ranks to basically apply for a $200,000 a year job that's still some way integrated in the military, but not an active service member, not something with like combat readiness. So to get that job, he has to get a recommendation from his commanding officer. And so that's kind of the opening scenes. He's trying to get a job. He was in the Army, was a Ranger. Now he's trying to get a recommendation. And then after that, again, I think his name is Rodriguez, but one of his clan member or group members or battalion regiment members, barracks members, is killed. You don't find out why until later on. It's not super relevant to the movie, but he's now got to go to the funeral or the service or a meetup or whatever. And so he goes back, has a lottery ticket. You know, they're Army bros. You know, reminiscing on their stories, their experiences at a bar. Jackson, played by Channing Tatum. Let's call him Channing Tatum, because again, they don't use the first names a lot in this movie at all. He's asking his commanding officer, you know, please give me the recommendation. You know, everybody else at this bar has got concussions or this injury or that injury. And then his commanding officer is basically like, yeah, but they're not on paper. So, meaning the commanding officer doesn't want to give Jackson his recommendation if he genuinely has an injury. And there's another comment like, you know, how much did you pay for your full medical? Meaning he had a medical exam, passed it fully, and his commanding officer's like, who did you pay to get that? And so he kind of like sleeps in his car the next morning, His commanding officer literally rips him out of the truck, which was, again, obviously it's a movie, but you would definitely hit your head pretty hard there, so that's very unrealistic. But he's literally like sleeping in the back of his truck, and his commanding officer, as like a playful joke, pulls him out of the thing, puts him on, like, lands him on the cement. If you pulled him out, his head would definitely hit the cement, give him like death or something. So I thought that was kind of funny. But he's like, you know, meet us at the battalion or the barracks or whatever the headquarters is called, and in 30 minutes, and we'll talk about that recommendation. So Jackson goes to the barracks. He's all excited. His commanding officer says, you know, how high can you jump? You tell me how high to jump, and that's what I do, or something. Sees another soldier weightlifting with a dumbbell over his head, so he's trying to get looking good for his mom. Thought it was pretty funny. What was this movie rated? I thought it was. What is this movie rated? This I thought was like genuinely hilarious. It's PG-13. Okay, that makes sense. It's comedy family film. I saw comedy family film thinking it was G. I was like, this is not going to pass for a G-rated movie. So that's literally just say about that. So he gets his assignment. It's not this or that. He's got to take the soldier who has died that they were commemorating. He had a service dog named Lulu, and the family of I think his name is Rodriguez wants the hero dog at the funeral service as well. And this takes place in modern times. I think they're somewhere in Washington, because he has to drive the dog down to like Arizona or New Mexico, and the first stop they hit is Portland, Oregon. So I'm assuming it's got to be more north than that. So I think that he's coming down from Washington. Basically, commanding officer is like, you take Lulu to the funeral with no hiccups or nothing bad, and I'll give you the recommendation for the $200,000 a year job. So Jackson agrees. Lulu's very sensitive to touching her ears, and she's got a muzzle on her. Basically, after the memorial service, Lulu the dog herself has so much PTSD that they're going to put her down. So Jackson's not super happy about that, but he wants the job. He agrees to take her down. So starts going. The first stop we get is in Portland, Oregon. And again, Lulu's ripping up his seats, barking, getting all mad. I don't know if she's ripped up the seats yet. But Jackson's like, all right, I'm in, let's do it. Going to Portland. What's he going to try to do? He's going to try to go get laid. So he goes to the bar. He's striking out with 3 different chicks. Again, it's like the first time he's going to be, and again, he's just like making up stories to try to get laid. And so he's like, you know, I'm this, I'm that, and then, you know, there's 3 different people. Each cutscene's like, when he changes his narrative or his persona, basically the chick that he was trying to hit on before would have liked that one. And then he changed it to a new persona, and then the new chick doesn't like that one, so he changes it again. And basically does that 3 times. Strikes out with all the chicks, goes back to his car. Lulu's giving him some trouble, and then 2, like, I forget what they called it, like, just like oracles, chakra readers, just, you know, $20 for the best psychic reading you could ever have. 2 types of those chick come out. And they have little dogs, and they're infatuated with Lulu, and they start talking to Jackson. And somehow they go back to their place. Again, he's just trying to hook up with some chicks, and they're like sexual sex therapist something. And so they start like you know, let's align our auras to see if we're ready to fuck each other. Oh boy, you know, just stuff like that. And then during that time, again, Lulu's going crazy in the car, barking. And the chick's killing the libido, so Jackson goes outside with his shirt off to get the dog to calm down. And there's another dude out there who's looking at Lulu like all distressful in the back, like Lulu's in distress in the back of the car. And he's like, you know, you should let this dog for human rights, or I'm going to throw a rock through the window to let her out. So the guy ends up doing that, throws a rock at the window, lets her out, and gets bitten, or at least like bitten on his shirt a little bit. Jackson wrangles Lulu back in, puts her in the car. He does not get laid. The libido is killed from the guy smashing the window. But now you just have like a saran wrap or some sort of plastic over where the back window used to be. So now he starts driving again further south, and just in the middle of the highway, Lulu just literally just jumps out through the plastic and just runs into the woods. Jackson pulls over real fast, starts chasing her. Turns out Lulu ran straight to a pot farm. So you see some big colas, not the consumer or whatever in finance, but cola like the top of the weed plant. And Jackson's looking for Lulu, and he gets shot in the back of the leg with a tranquilizer. Turns out it was just like a hippie pot farmer, not like a cartel or anything. Again, this is in like Portland, Oregon, somewhere in the Emerald Triangle. And he gets tied up, put on a chair in the barn with some hogs. He gets zip tied. He's an Army Ranger, breaks out, picks up an axe, goes inside to confront. This is Gus. This is probably the only other character I remember his name. It's Gus, older white dude, pot farmer with his wife, who I think is Tamara, but Gus has a wife. And so they were like, Gus is not like a big time criminal. He was just trying to scare Jackson or something, and Jackson's an Army Ranger, like, who do I put this axe in? And so they all kind of realize what's going on isn't a joke and it's not a big deal. So Tamara gives Gus and Jackson some homemade edibles and tells them to go work it out. You know, they eat the edibles. They're going through, like, in the war journal, just data entries of who did what, this, when. You know, Gus sees Lulu's caught some bodies herself in whatever war they're fighting. I think it was probably Afghanistan. But is like, and then goes back inside after they eat their edibles, having a good time, drinking some whiskey maybe. Go back in, and Tamara is also like a psychic reader as well. So she gives Jackson some psychic readings, saying that Lulu really wants a big mattress and Indian food, and picks up, and this is when you hear that Jackson has a daughter named Sam. And he's just like, oh, let's not talk about my daughter too much. So then, again, gets Lulu back from Tamara and Gus. Tamara had removed like a thorn that was in Lulu's foot. She was walking around pretty much funny. And now Lulu's back to walking, and they hit the road again. So after getting the psychic reading, he decides that, you know, where are we going to get a mattress? Again, Lulu's always ripping up the seats, biting stuff, being a rowdy dog still. And so he basically decides that he's going to act like he's blind and put a purple heart on Lulu and then go try to get a free room at a hotel. So it works out really well. He gets a really nice hotel room. He's acting blind. He's like, you know, I'm going to go out on the town, leave Lulu in. Lulu's not having it, barking, scratching at the door. So he takes her outside or down into the lobby. In the lobby, Lulu sees just a guy in a turban, and it turns out to be a medical doctor. So again, Jackson is pretending to be blind. Lulu breaks free from the leash and just goes running, and Jackson chases her frantically, clearly revealing that he's not blind. That's how he got the free room. And so attacks the guy in the turban. Everyone in the hotel is very pleased and goes, "Oh, look, what a surprise, I can see now. Thank God, it's a miracle." But he gets arrested for it. I think the reason he got arrested was not for conning them out of a free room, but because of the attack on the guy in the turban. But the police officer he interacts with is Bill Burr. Again, he doesn't have a name in the movie, but I did recognize him. So basically, he's in the holding cell. He levels with Bill Burr, says he's a Army Ranger, and Bill Burr's an MP, which I don't know what that means for military. I thought it was medical practitioner, but probably not, because when Jackson originally went to go pick up Lulu, his Army ID had expired, which is by law you have to destroy that. And you know, he's like, you know, thank you for your service, and flicking off the person that was questioning him at the entrance of the military base. You know, basically saying, I'm an Army Ranger, you're a dick sucker. And so Bill Burr's one of those guys. And so Bill Burr kind of like leads on Jackson, like, oh yeah, dude, you're an Army Ranger, sweet, awesome. And then he's like, you know, fuck you, bitch. Stay in this cell, I'm not going to let you out because you're a Ranger and you need to get to this funeral. Next day rolls around, he's in a lineup, and he just like a police lineup, and he immediately just starts saying, like, clearly it's me, it's like, this is not like a big deal, like this is, I was guilty. And then the medical doctor decides, again, he's on some trip, he's staying in a hotel. He's like, I'm not going to come back here to prosecute a veteran that, tried to get a free hotel room for acting blind. So Jackson gets let out because the guy doesn't want to leave charges. On his way out, he says, Bill Burr, thank you for your service and fuck you again, which I thought that was pretty fucking funny. And so he's out of the jail and he's back on his way to the funeral. Past there, I think he stops off at his wife, or not his wife, I forget, again, don't even know her name, but his partner, where he had his baby mama, had a kid with somebody, goes in there, the kid's name is Sam, it's a girl, and he brings her like a dinosaur, just a stuffed animal, and you're not really sure what happens, they don't really say anything in the house, but he comes back out and clearly like, my guess is at the time, Sam's mother doesn't want to tell Sam that's his father. So he initially goes there, she doesn't recognize him as his dad. And so he's not too happy that you don't get any scenes about the interaction with the family. And then past that, he goes and meets another, it's not the funeral, it's not the family, but it's like either another one of his ranger mates or somebody else who's trained a dog. That Nuke is another dog. Again, the dog is like a Belgian something. It looks very similar to a Rottweiler. And I don't know that many dog breeds. But he goes to this other guy, Army Ranger, and he's talking with him like, Nuke was going to be put down as well. Because again, after the funeral, Lulu's going to be put down. It's like, I had to convince the Army to let me adopt her. The Army's deeming certain animals not adoptable. And now he's doing better. So they're cooking some burgers, hanging out, and then he goes back to his car, and his car's been ransacked by a homeless person. So both Nuke and Lulu and Jackson and his tribe, or his army mate, go. She's a sniffer dog, so they track down the scent of the stuff, and they'd stolen all of the army stuff for Rodriguez, who was being buried. So they find the homeless dude under, in a tent under the bridge. I think this is in San Francisco. And get the stuff back. And they tussle with the guy. He's wearing an army jacket. Jackson's all mad because, again, you don't disrespect the army. Rips the jacket off of him. And his ranger mate's like, you never know who's actually served down here, stuff like that. So he gets all the stuff back, gets in his car, and goes to the funeral. Gets to the funeral, well, actually, no, before that, the car breaks down. This is the last stop. The car breaks down, they're in the pouring rain. They go into like this warehouse building, which is kind of breaking and entering. They just enter a big warehouse kind of on the side of the road. The car's broken down. They stay there for a night. Jackson scratches thanks into a plank of wood, leaves it on the TV, like by a TV, and again, just like a warehouse type of environment that's not really used much or something. Past that, now they're going to get to the funeral. So he hitchhikes a little bit. Again, he's no more vehicle, so he gets a hitchhike from some Mexican farm workers, it looks like, and he gets to the service. They're saying their goodbyes, they're doing the army salutes. He lets Lulu off the leash, and at this point she's gotten a lot more. Also, before this, Jackson has a seizure. Again, that's why I think it's some sort of neurological thing. He's taking medications for migraines, but I think also seizure medications as well. And there's a cute scene with Lulu cuddling up with Jackson after a seizure. But they get to the funeral and lets Lulu off the leash, and she goes and lays down by the boots. Nice scene for the family. They're all happy that he made it. His commanding officer, who was looking for the recommendation is very happy with him, but now the final step of the movie is to take Lulu to be euthanized. To the army barracks again, somewhere in New Mexico or Arizona or somewhere like that. Takes her there. It was like, gets the same, your army ID is expired, they come to take her, and she clearly wants to go back with Jackson, and so he drops her off, leaves, but 100 yards down the road, puts his car in reverse, comes back, and takes the dog back. And he gives away his army ID. And so, he takes her, after the funeral, before he take her there, he basically goes in the desert, takes her off her leash, and just says, run away, like go, and Lulu won't leave. So then he takes Lulu back. I'm assuming at this point he's not going to get the recommendation, but he adopts Lulu, and at the end he's writing letters because Rodriguez had been writing Lulu letters, and at the end you get Jackson writing to, I think it's to Lulu, but basically just saying you saved my life. So also thinking again some sort of actual neurological migraine seizures, and then also PTSD. I mean, it's an Army Ranger dude. So that's really the end. You see, then you get some scenes of him being introduced to his daughter where they're not like dialogue, it's the cutout scenes, there's music playing in the background. So I'm pretty sure that's when he's being introduced to his daughter. So overall, grade, I will give it A-. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, for entertainment value, for going to watch a movie, I thought it was pretty good. Did not tear up, did not get super emotional. I did feel a little sentimental. I thought it was decent. Major themes. Now, I'm completely switching tones, kind of. Major themes. Again, dog-human relationships. Again, I think he's way dramatized. Again, I'd say, oh, look at that cute Scoobob's doggo all the time. But again, it's just because they have a reflex thing in their eyeballs. Life is about survival and doing stuff. It's not like super sentimental and emotional. Again, that's human beings being stagnated. But again, certainly like animals. I like all animals. Again, I've talked about extensively liking your dog more than your neighbor is terrible. But I certainly like dogs too. Animal PTSD. Again, just Lulu being, not cooperative with other people after being in battle zones or stuff like that. I don't know, just evidence-based. Do they get more PTSD, less PTSD? I'd probably say more, just because they're less likely to change. I mean, behavioral changes for animals, it takes a lot more training than humans, which I don't know if that's exactly true. But human PTSD, again, post-traumatic stress disorder, particularly for the Army. Again, if you go into the Army, you're going to probably kill people and maybe be killed or probably be killed. And if you're not completely aware of that, the PTSD is, again, really walking into a room, you're in some country you're not supposed to be in, you turn a corner real fast, you shoot a fucking woman, and then you're like, oh shit, I just murdered a woman, and then you realize that later. So post-traumatic stress, like flashbacks, I think that's a false word. I think it's just realization. You just realize war is about being a primitive animal and slaughtering people. But then you have to, again, go back to being a loving husband or a loving wife or a loving son or daughter or something, and you just keep going back to that. Yep, I definitely engage that primitive mindset. So not super sympathetic for military, like how many suicides a day. If you don't know what you're getting into, again, that's a point of education. That is when you violated your own consent. That is when you refuse to educate yourself. So honestly, not very sympathetic there. They say it is what it is a lot in the movie. Again, in the first 3-4 scenes when he's getting Lulu, they say it is what it is. But anything else? Not really. Again, even at the end, saying, having a dog save you. Again, cute and sentimental for a movie. I mean, that's weird in real life. So that's really it there. And again, I'm not in the military, but again, my grandfather, literally going to bury my grandfather at Arlington National Cemetery at the end of this month. Again, he was a Bronze Star service member, served with honor, and I literally don't have human rights, like literally. And there's a war going on. So, I would love to respect our military if it did its job. You violated your own laws so profoundly. There's a war and a pandemic. So, not too personally respectful of the military simply because they don't do their fucking jobs. And so, again, direct orders of biological proof of law, and people are just like, oh yeah, doubt it. Well, now there's a war, so. So there you have it. Again, I thoroughly enjoyed the movie, again, as entertainment. So I hope you go watch Dog Movie. Like Channing Tatum and most things I've seen him in. The Lost City's coming out soon with, there's no similar movies popped into my brain, but Channing Tatum got to dive his head in all up in that Sandra Bullock, so I'm pretty jealous about that. So I'll definitely be seeing The Lost City. I'm sure I'll be doing more movie reviews before then as well. So thank you for watching.
and see you next time.